and we didn't have an agreement where we needed to tell each other in advance. And so it wasn't like I was necessarily breaking the agreement by going and doing it, but I just know that it would be difficult to receive when I tell her, baby, by the way, after I kicked you out, we did this thing. And so I go and have the threesome. And then by the time I finish this wild threesome all over this graveyard, I get back in my car, 15 missed calls from my girlfriend. And I was like, dear, I see. It's possible that I don't know what she needed, but to call me that many times, she would know something's up. And so then I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be a tough conversation to have. It's very late at night now. And I get home, and as I pull into my street, I see her car is in my driveway and she has a key to my house. So I'm like, oh dear, I'm going to be dealing with a difficult conversation, potentially having an even later night.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Well, welcome to episode 429. We're Finn and Emma, and today we are joined by James for a great conversation about his journey exploring non-monogamy over the last 17 years. His path has taken many twists and turns, as you'll see, from beginning in sort of a don't ask, don't tell dynamic to exploring swinging and sex parties, non-hierarchical polyamory, and then recently discovering his demisexuality and so much more.
Yeah, we often use the word journey on this podcast, sometimes a lot. But often there really isn't a better way to describe the incredible experiences and huge transformations that people come on and share with us. And today is really no exception. James's story takes him from Australia to London and back. He's faced some incredible mental health challenges, gotten sober, and so much more. And one of the things we absolutely love about this conversation with James is how transparent and vulnerable he is about everything he's learned over his 17 years of exploring this, and how he hasn't always necessarily done things in the most ethical way, but like most of us, he's always trying to learn and grow along the way.
As you'll hear, James also does a lot of work for the greater non-monogamous community, including hosting the FAR Festival, the Festival of Alternative Relationships, and creating the Open Circle community. James talks more about the community organizing and the work he does throughout the conversation, and you'll find links to all of his work in the podcast show notes.
Also, after the interview, James sticks around for our new bonus question segment, our bonus question episodes that are now available for our premium subscribers. As a quick reminder, our premium subscribers get access to ad-free podcast listening and access to the new bonus questions we started at the beginning of the year. The bonus questions are 10 to 15 minute long episodes and are an opportunity for us to get to know our guests a little bit deeper. For example, the soundbite you heard at the beginning of this episode, usually those soundbites are actually from the interview we do, but the one today is actually a wild story or part of a wild story James tells in the bonus episode about getting caught, in quotation marks, and it's definitely worth checking out. So if you want to join the premium subscription, get access to the ad-free listening and get access to these new bonus content episodes or these bonus question episodes, you can head over to our website, scroll down on the homepage, and you can sign up there for just $4 a month or $40 a year, and we would love to have you join us and support the show. So thank you for doing that.
And now we're going to jump right into the interview with James for our premium subscribers, and for everyone else, we're going to go through a few announcements.
The first announcement is just a quick reminder that we lead a community of over 300 people socializing and supporting one another every single day. We host our community on a platform called Mighty Networks. We have monthly community support Zoom calls, monthly virtual workshops, and in-person events as well, all for less than $10 a month. Our next monthly workshop is coming up on February 12th with Dr. Melissa DeLizia and Lauren Carroll. It is called Grieving Queer. It's going to be an incredible conversation. We'd love to have you come join us. And one other perk that you get when you're a member of our community is you actually get access to the premium subscription that we were talking about earlier. So you get the ad-free listening and the bonus question episodes as well. So again, for less than $10 a month, you get monthly community workshops, you get premium subscription, you get monthly community Zoom calls, you get in-person events, and you get daily support and socializing in a virtual community. So
that's a lot.
That's way too much. So come check it out. We'd love to have you come join us. You can find out more and sign up over on the community tab of our website.
Next up, we're excited to remind you all about our next in-person event coming up May 1st to the 3rd, 2026, called Relationship Recess. Join us outside Orlando, Florida for a weekend packed with games, play, and connection. And just a note that you don't need to be a member of our community or the premium subscription to join this event. It is open to the public. We are collaborating with the team from Multi-Amory and Gary Ware, a strategic play consultant, to bring you an amazing weekend together. We actually just released a bonus episode last Friday with Gary Ware talking all about play and relationships. Go listen if you haven't. We highly recommend you go do that. And we can't wait to have you join us in May. Tickets are on sale now. Click on the events tab of our website to find out more.
And as you'll hear later in the episode, James is actually flying all the way from Australia to join us in Florida. So no excuses for you not to come join us. Get your butts down there. We'd love to have you join us, and we'll see you there. The last thing we want to tell you all about before we jump into the interview is our favorite way to get tested for STIs. That is stdcheck.com. We've been telling you about this for years because it truly is MNI's favorite way to get tested. It's the service that we use, and we highly recommend you check it out as well. It's super fast, it's easy, it's discreet, and when you use the links in the podcast show notes or over on the resources tab of our website, you save yourself $10, bringing the cost of a 10-panel test down to only $129. And you help support the podcast. So thank you in advance for doing that. And thank you to everybody who has used those links over the years. We really appreciate it.
And finally, a quick reminder to reach out to us. Send us an email over on the Contact Us page of our website. We would love to hear from you if you have any feedback for us or questions, or if you would love to be a guest on the show. We would love to have you. Send us an email and let us know. And with that, let's go and talk with James.
Welcome to the podcast, James. We're excited to chat, coming to us all the way from around the world in Australia. Super excited to have you here today. And yeah, thanks for joining us. We happen to know this is a day after a huge weekend for you. So we're just thrilled to have you here. Welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I just finished running the Festival of Alternative Relationships here in Australia, which is a 3-day camping festival, several hundred people. And I knew that I was going to be riding on fumes potentially coming into this chat. You know, it's such a big weekend. But I just really love what you both are doing and, you know, getting to connect from across the sea and listen to some of your episodes. So, yeah, it's a privilege to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, we're super excited to talk a little bit more about your event and the work you do building community in Australia and to get to know you a little bit better and hear about your story. So,
yeah, we would love for you to start by introducing yourself.
Yes, so I'm James. I've been exploring non-monogamy for 17 years, which, you know, I think you guys are somewhere up around the 20 mark, right?
We're right around where you're at. I mean, it's pretty close. It gets blurry in those last couple of years, right?
And isn't it just, first of all, guys, isn't it just incredible how popular it's becoming now, like, and how much awareness there is in like the zeitgeist and even on dating apps, and it's just really magical. And for me, you know, it's become a bit of a thing, a bit more than just an identity. It feels like it's a purpose-driven thing for me now as well, to try and make alternative relationships as accessible as possible. A bit like what you're doing, you know. Something that I really love about what you two do. I listened to an episode a little while ago that had a woman on it who, and I think the episode was about her and a partner exploring like a threesome or something and trying to open their relationship, and it didn't necessarily go perfectly. And what I loved about that was you still put that episode up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not putting out there that like it always works out and it's totally great and this is the one way of doing things. So yeah, I really connect to that as well. Like, I like to think that I, you know, possibly like a lot of people listening that are on the non-monogamy train, like at one point I was very anti-monogamy, you know? Mm-hmm. It's very preachy. That's like, this is the only way.
Real self-righteous. Yeah, we're doing relationships the right way over here. Yeah,
yeah, and we're evolved, you know, and everyone else is behind. And now I don't subscribe to that at all. I just think I'd like to make people be aware that there's alternative ways of relating.
Yeah. If anyone didn't catch it, that's sarcasm from all of us.
Yes. No, that's exactly right. Yes. I think monogamy is just as valid a relationship type as non-monogamy. And so, yeah, I've been doing it for 17 years. I became a sexologist a couple of years ago and decided to make it more of my job. So now I also see couples, predominantly couples, but also individuals exploring non-monogamy. And then there's also some that I teach about DS, so like kink relationships, dominance and submission. I run workshops in multiple states in Australia. I also run a community here, very similar to what you are doing over there. We've got like 500 people in Sydney and then a few interstate. And we do sort of monthly meetups like mingle nights, picnics, book clubs, movie nights, the odd play party. Do your listeners know what a play party means?
I think they're familiar, and at this point, 400 episodes, and I think they might be. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where you have like ball pits, right, and just stuffed animals.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think it's important to mention about my journey is you'll notice that I said I've been doing non-monogamy for 17 years, but the popular term in Australia at the moment is E&M, so ethical non-monogamy. I know in the States there's lots of different versions, but I love the E now because it means that it's ethical non-monogamy. But for me, it's not always been ethical. Like my very first really proper long-term relationship as like 17 to 19-year-old, I cheated, and then I've cheated on and I've cheated and been cheated on in non-monogamy. And so there's definitely been periods where I was learning and growing and it wasn't always ethical. So I like to clarify that I was non-monogamous, always openly non-monogamous at least. But I've certainly been on a journey like a lot of us with learning how to do that ethically.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate the distinction and the honesty that, right? I think something that gets lost sometimes is how human we are. And that at the beginning of this, and not even just at the beginning, it could be 10, 20 years into exploring, mistakes happen. We screw up. We get into situations that we maybe have never been in, or we're in a mental state that we've never been in, or who knows what happens, or we just make a mistake. So I really appreciate you bringing that in, James. And I'm curious, going back 17 years, what sort of happened around that time that brought non-monogamy to your world?
Yeah. So, it's been my anecdotal experience, and I wonder about you over there with your community, that the majority of at least hetero relationships were opened by the woman. It's actually, at least here in Australia, it's very much a female-led movement. We've got like about 75% of our community are women.
Wow.
And so, I've had a very amazingly illustrious sex life and, relationship journey. And I always make the joke that everything I know how to do is taught to me by a strong woman. I just think men are stupid. We don't really know. And so it's basically my girlfriend at the time. So I'm 19. She sits me down and we were falling desperately in love with each other. And, at that stage, it was the best sex that either of us had ever had. And she sat me down one day and she said, listen to me. I'm just letting you know that I'm not sure we should continue being in a relationship because I'm just going to cheat on you. Like, I'm just a cheater and I'm going to cheat on you and I've cheated on everyone. And so we should probably not try and do this. And I was like, oh, well, I've actually also been a cheater too. And so I didn't really know that this could be a thing that we could do. Right. And I didn't even know where she got the idea, to be honest. Like, I don't remember, in 2008, I don't remember ever hearing about poly, at least in my circles. I didn't know there were books. I didn't know there was a community. And so we were just like, okay, well, let's just keep sleeping with other people and then continue sleeping with each other. So that's how it got started for me. And then probably like a lot of people that have been exploring it for a long time, like yourselves, it's a journey in terms of the sort of structure or rules and agreements that you have in the beginning. And then often they evolve and change. And so for us, what that looked like was, for those first kind of 2 years, she wanted to know everything that I did with anyone. And I, even though I identified as, I was like, I don't have a jealous bone in my body. For some reason, I didn't see my kind of cognitive dissonance that I also didn't want to know a single thing that she got up to. So I actually said to her, happy to do whatever you want to do, but I want you to lie to me about it. I want you to you get your friends to cover for you, get your friends to lie to me. I don't want to even suspect, but I'm not jealous. I'm totally not jealous. But I just don't want to know. Right.
I have too much compersion. If I hear it, I don't know what'll happen, right?
Yes, yeah. And I mean, of course, I didn't even know that term, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, like, I mean, maybe your listeners have already heard you talk about it, but like you two have also, I imagine, changed structures over the course of your relationship as well.
Many times. I think we're in relationship number 25. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Who knows?
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. And so, like for those first kind of 2 years, I didn't know anything that she got up to. And then I kind of accidentally found out one day that she'd been sort of doing something that was kind of against the rules that we had, which, I laugh now at some of the naive kind of, ways that I used to be. And so one of our rules was you weren't allowed to sleep with anyone more than twice in a 12-month period.
Okay. Sorry, I chuckle because I'm like, well, how would you even know? But yeah, or how do you track such a thing?
That's exactly right, Finn.
But I also want to just be mindful that I know there might be people out there listening here. They're like, hey, that's our rule. And so I think too, just holding space for the fact that we're all figuring this out. And if that's what works, I'm not here. I truly, like, if that's working for you, do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you've gotten onto a great point there as well, Finn, that I think in the zeitgeist, and certainly if you read a lot of the literature, people that write those books are at a stage where they've moved past the need for rules and veto and these things that I've found that for people in the beginning actually help build the security that makes them stick with trying non-monogamy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, I mentioned that I'm a sexologist now, and I mostly help people with non-monogamy. And so I like to destigmatize people needing rules,
Yep.
And so, as you say, if anyone's listening, they have a similar rule. I like to encourage people to book in structured time to rediscuss rules regularly.
Yeah.
Like, hey, is this rule still working for us? Like, can we be flexible with it? But yeah, essentially, I found out that she'd been breaking that rule and sleeping with a neighbor whenever she wanted, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I wasn't being a perfect boy either, let me be clear. And then this really convenient thing happened to me that it turns out about 30% of people can be sexually aroused by jealousy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you know Dr. Jolie Hamilton.
Yes.
Yes. Love her work. And so she taught me that. And it turns out, guys, I'm one of those lucky people. And so when I found out all this information at once, and then I think we had this wild sex. And so then I realized, not only do I like knowing, but it actually turns me on. And so then, slowly then that relationship and the following relationships, things have become a lot more loose in terms of the rules and structure and veto and all that sort of stuff. Each relationship's been different since then.
Yeah, amazing. I appreciate that, James. And I just wanted to just revisit too that what you said about, the rules, and if people need these rules or any rule to feel safe or secure, or just frankly because that's the path. And I think, like you said, so many of the content creators, educators out there, right, have also gone through those rules themselves, but when they're writing about it later on, years or decades later, that's really not part of their vision at that point. And so I think sometimes it gets missed, but Emma and I had a lot of rules that we've, since dropped off, and we can look back at some of those and laugh. And so I think that so much of this is just about all of us going on our own journey, and we can learn from other people, but that doesn't mean that the way you're doing it is going to work for me, or the way that person's going to do it is going to work for you. Like, we have to figure out what works for us and the people we're in relationships with.
And I think that's something great about what you two are doing as well, is just really showcasing that spectrum, rather than, necessarily preaching that you have to do it this one way, guys. And it's not always the intention of the authors of the literature. Like,
for sure.
I've read all, because I've run book clubs in multiple cities. Like, I've read all those books multiple times, and I really get something from them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of people do often need these kind of rules in the beginning. And because the thing I'm most passionate about is just making it accessible as possible, So if people need those things, I think, just being aware of trying to do them ethically, but then I think that should be okay, whatever's working for them.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. You're trying to establish or continue to have some security and safety in that relationship, whether it's a existing relationship that you're opening up from the beginning, or two people coming together that are open from the beginning and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think often too, when we dive into something like non-monogamy, I think especially if we're coming from a paradigm where we were monogamous, there's I don't know the right word. There's like holdover things, right? We're going to do non-monogamy, but we're still going to bring, I'm making up things, but like 80% of monogamy into it. And then maybe it's 30, whatever it is. But it's like the transition is often not like a clean break. Like, okay, we went from this to this and everything is new. I think it takes time to make these shifts because they're not easy shifts to make often.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And it's something that I've, and I'm sure you have as well, like over the years, of being involved in these communities, and I've helped grow communities in both Sydney and in London. And you do see people sort of take these kind of common shifts away from the monogamous paradigm. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I've seen a lot of people go on a similar journey. It sort of starts off a lot more couple-centric, and for those playing at home that maybe don't know, it means, like it's the couple takes priority above all else. Mm-hmm. And which is quite a monogamous thing, the idea that this couple is the most important relationship in our lives above all else. And then, our rules just prioritize us. You can't sleep over with anyone else because like that threatens us. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what that other person thinks. And then slowly but surely people seem to move away from that and become less couple focused sometimes, or like more, open to, I think it's the book More Than Two that says people are real, like treating those other partners as real people. Yep. As well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sure you've probably seen a similar thing with people that you've had in your community.
Seen it and done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious so you come out of your, we'll call it the don't ask, don't tell phase with your girlfriend into a sort of a big shift for you, a realization that, jealousy can actually be a turn on for you. And I'm curious where your story takes you at that point.
Well, we were together, I think, for another 4.5 years after I start wanting to know, and I mean, well, first of all, the jealousy as a turn on thing has just been a beautiful gift to have had, in the 14-ish years since then. And so most relationships, like, in fact, what happens, of course, guys, is, in the beginning, I'm like naively like, I have a right to know every gory detail of my partner's sexual escapades now with other people because that turns me on, So then that's like, she used to like go out and have one night stands, and then she would come home and wake me up at like 3 a.m. and like get me hard and sit on my dick and be like, he just fucked me against the wall and then I came on his, and I'm like, yeah. And then sort of like, as that progresses, I realize it's not necessarily ethical to be receiving every single detail about someone else's, sex life unless they've given permission.
Yep.
But anyway, and so then, then a lot of the time when I shift from one relationship to the next, in my story, what has been a factor in that is meeting someone who represents the next level of openness that I want. And this is something I found it very common, and I'd be interested to hear if you've witnessed this in your journey. It's like meeting somebody who they want another level of openness to what your current partner wants, right? Like I see it actually a lot in my practice with clients, like, we were sort of just the very physical. She didn't want to make friends with anyone that we were sleeping with, or like, go to the shibari studio that I wanted to get into because she didn't want people to know like what we were like. And then I sort of meet somebody who's like very open about it, wants to be more poly-leaning. And so for me, that's kind of what happened when I've moved on I've had a few different partners over the years. Uh-huh. And then with each relationship, I've sort of gone into it realizing that I'm looking for even more openness, as in like, now I do want to be friends with the people that I sleep with. Okay, now I want to have emotional bonds with them. Okay, now I'm open to being in love with them, or like having them being integrated into my life in major ways. And that's something that I've seen that's been quite common in the people I've been around or the communities I've been involved with. Do you have much experience witnessing that as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that there's been several people that we've talked to that have experienced that as well, for sure. And I think it makes sense too, as you go through life and you get to meet different people, you're like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. And I think we also, I would say, maybe saw it for ourselves. Our journey sort of started more on the swinging side where it was very couple centric, but we were often looking for people who we could be friends with. And there were few of those that we found, but then over the years, we started to get more comfortable being a little bit more out or a little bit more fluid around how much we can be connected to people, right? It's not just, okay, we're going to come over, hook up, and then you go home, but like, oh, it's okay to cuddle, right? Stuff that sometimes wasn't really okay for a lot of the swinging community that we were in. And we started to see ourselves being like, well, I want a little more connection than that. And so I think we did see some of those shifts for ourselves. And as Emma said, yeah, we've talked to others. And I'm curious, as you're navigating this for you, James, how did you move through this in a way, I don't know the best way to ask this, but where it doesn't feel, or where you're not just like trading up, where you're not like bringing the car in after 2 years and being like, all right, I'm ready for, a little bit bigger or a little bit faster model, but really to do this in a way that is a bit more relational.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, at least in my experience, there was just nowhere near as much awareness in the zeitgeist around this sort of stuff. One of the reasons why I started growing communities in Australia and London and running my own events is that I wanted to find other people doing it who I could learn from or like make friends with. And that wasn't really happening at the swingers clubs. And so I think that I didn't always navigate how to make those transitions well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've come up with this term. I've got all these frameworks I kind of teach here in Australia, and one of the things I've come up with is the idea of the seeker and the keeper in a non-monogamous dynamic, and that could be more of an energy, right? And the way I define that is that the seeker is the person that is wanting more openness than they currently have. So that's wanting a loosening of the rules or agreements or an expansion of the things they're allowed to do. And the keeper is the person or the energy that wants to keep things as they are right now, and both things can be really important. And so for me, when I was in my seeker energy, I found that I would really start to bristle at anything that my partner, if they were in the keeper energy, was trying to restrict me on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I see a lot with clients, right? This is the core tension. If people are struggling in non-monogamy, it's often because someone is in their seeker energy and they want more openness than they're getting currently. And so, yeah, I mean, I handle those in a variety of ways, sometimes ethically, sometimes not so ethically. And then learning and just trying to do my best, like when one relationship would end.
Mm-hmm.
I basically was just a serial relationship guy, to be honest, until the last few years.
Yeah.
Just, I always thought that I was really good at keeping people at the right distance emotionally. But it took me a long time to realize I just fall in love very easily. Yeah. I don't know if that's answering the question, but yeah, essentially there's a variety of ways that I sort of handled those transitions.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there is a right answer to it. And I love the honesty that maybe it wasn't always flawless. And I would say same, there are times where we've looked back and go, oh shit, I see now something, I didn't even have like a framework for it years ago. And now I understand myself better. Maybe I understand the situation better.
Yeah. I think as well, anyone listening that's perhaps relating to some of the stuff we've mentioned around being much more couple focused, or maybe they're just interested in swinging, right? And they've stumbled upon this podcast, as I'm sure a lot of people do, and they hear about, oh my gosh, like this other level of openness. Like, for example, 10 years into my journey when I get married, everyone at the wedding is non-monogamous. I'm like seeing 7 people there. The photographer of my wedding was my wife's boyfriend. They spent most of the time sitting on each other's laps, which really confused the bar staff who were just like, what is going on? One of the bar staff came up to us afterwards and was like, what's the deal with your friends and how can I be friends with you all? But, I would have heard though, if I listened to this podcast, hearing about something like that, where I was at in the beginning, I might have said, you know what, actually, I want to get off this train.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever be ready for that sort of thing. I don't want that sort of thing. I would feel anxious if my partner did. I don't think this is for me. And I think it's just worth mentioning that it's totally fine if you stay in that place, actually.
Yep.
You might not ever move towards that. But for those that do, and I wonder if it's been your experience of this, for those that do, it's like by the time you get there, you are ready for that. And actually you do kind of want it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have found it really hard to even conceive of that 2 years in, what I just said about the wedding.
Yep.
But then by the time I got to the wedding, it felt like the most natural and wonderful thing ever.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been like that for you? Has it been like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen something similar for myself and how I've done that, feeling ready for the next step. And I think there's often a lot in there too around making sure that we're doing that as a team still, even if what we're moving towards is, hey, we're going to do less things as the couple-centric version. But that shift, to me, it still needs to be done as a team, right? I think rather than one person coming and being like, okay, hey, we're done with the team thing. And now, right. And it's so trying not to make those sort of harsh transitions, because sometimes I can get a little bit excited when I'm like, ooh, a new thing, let's go do the new thing. And yeah, definitely don't always love having to slow down.
I think on top of that, I can also get excited about the new thing, but recognize in hindsight that I wasn't actually ready.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of struggle and hurt in that because I do get excited, and then it's like, oh wait, I shouldn't have done what I did at that time.
Yeah.
Or I should have gone slower.
And I think that's a great thing that you've cottoned onto here, which is that sometimes this non-monogamy thing, it does feel like navigating in the dark a little bit.
It is.
Because I actually hear it from clients quite a bit. It's like sometimes the person that might be in their keeper energy and really struggling with the fact their partner suddenly, I don't know, wants to go on solo dates or do sleepovers finally or whatever. There's sometimes this thing that they say, which is, you know what, part of me feels like just fuck it. I just better let them do it so I can see, because we don't really know how it's going to feel a lot of the time, right? We don't know. I guess we could try. Yeah, you could go have a sleepover with Josie or whatever, and I'll just kind of see how it feels. And then sometimes it doesn't actually feel that good.
Yeah.
And so that can be the kind of, I find it both exciting. That's an exciting element of what we're doing. This thing we're often carving out just totally new scripts.
Yeah.
For ourselves. And as you also say, it can also be challenging sometimes in hindsight.
Yeah.
I also just really wanted to touch or circle back to what you were saying about that this train doesn't have to go to the next stop. And I think that was really, really critical what you shared there, that,
it doesn't have to be an escalator.
Once you step on the ride, you don't have to ride it to the metaphorical top, right? You get to say, here's where I feel good. And I,
what is even the metaphorical top?
That's what I was actually going to say, is that we've talked to some people. I can't remember exactly this conversation. I don't even think it was on the podcast, but somebody had shared with me that one of their friends that they knew, they started their non-monogamous journey doing everything separate. And sort of what a lot of people would look at as the top level, where they were like having overnights, other relationships, everything was separate because they didn't feel ready to do things together. And so only after a number of years were they in a place where they're like, okay, hey, let's try to do this together now. And so I think realizing that there isn't a top, there isn't a bottom, there isn't a start and an end. There's just different ways.
An amorphous blob.
And you can, you can go from here to there and back. You can jump anywhere you want that feels good to you along the journey.
Yeah. And other things that are happening in your life can affect the ability that you have to have certain types of openness.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I had a big, and I've talked about this on podcasts before, so it's not a huge secret, but basically I developed bipolar out of nowhere in my late 20s, early 30s, about 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago. And I went from having zero mental health issues ever my entire life to suddenly having really severe mental health issues. And I actually, my last week living in London in 2020, I don't remember at all. Like I was in mania.
Wow.
And in that time, I then lost a lot of friends, and I lost that marriage that I spoke about. And it was just a wildly dark time. And then, I got diagnosed. I got sober as well. I'm 5.5 years of alcohol now. And it took me about 2.5 years to remember that I had any value at all. I completely lost my sense of self. I thought I'll never have any value to anyone. And it was, it was really tough. And the thing that actually saved me and brought me back to myself was growing the community again here in Australia. Trying to grow community, that reminded me that I had value. But what then happened was when I started trying to date again, holy shit, like now I'm a totally different person. And like the sorts of openness that was just so easy for me for years, I'm suddenly feeling like I'm back to being brand new at this thing. There's been moments like that over the last 5 years where I'm like, wow, maybe I need Don't Ask, Don't Tell again for a while. Like, one point I'm doing non-hierarchical poly, getting married. And now I'm like, because of things happening in my life, I'm needing different coping strategies, right? So I've been on that experience of feeling like I'm bouncing around the other, all over the place.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that part of your journey. That is incredibly difficult, and to go through that like shift and lose so much in your life. And then to have to come out the other side, or getting to the other side and realize, like, I don't even know how to do any of this. I'm a totally different person right now.
Yeah. The universe was like, okay, James, you're shifting towards making this open thing your job. Because, I'd been running events and communities, by this point for like probably 7 or 8 years. And then it's becoming my formal job now. I've studied, we went to I also studied out of the Somatica Institute. I forget which one of you studied there as well. Yes. Okay, cool. So Finn studied there, and so the universe was like, by the way, James, we're going to remind you how hard it can be to deal with some things. Here you go. Just so you remember what it can be like for people, at the start of the journey. So that was just a convenient thing the universe orchestrated.
Yeah.
That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, it's empathy training.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm again, as Emma said, just really grateful for you sharing that, just the struggle there. And that you also, similar to us, we've gone, I don't want to say up and down, but we've zigged and zagged, and we've come back to where we were at the beginning. We're like, how did we get back here? And it just, you don't necessarily know where it's going to take you.
Life is a wild ride.
It sounds though, James, like you kind of touched on your wedding and maybe a bit of an unconventional format for a wedding, but I'm guessing there was some buildup to the point where you're doing non-hierarchical poly in such a configuration. I'm curious what the sort of build up to that point was for you.
Yeah. So, again, a journey that I've seen has been quite common, and I love that you're saying that this is not like an escalator. Like, going for more openness is better than needing to be like more swinging or anything like that. Because I'm of the same mind of just destigmatizing that we're all just figuring out whatever we want to do, right?
Yeah.
But for me, what it looked like is starting more swinging, and then after a while, it's like, okay, now I want to hang out with those people outside. Okay, so sometimes we're having dinner with those people and we're not fucking. Okay, now we're having picnics. Now I'm running book clubs and meeting more people and learning from them and their stories and being like, wow, those people. I remember the first time I saw a couple I'd made friends with that were open. We went to just a regular house party together, and like one of them just turned mid-conversation and started making out with a girl in front of his girlfriend. And I remember being like, wow, that's amazing. You can just kiss a new person and they're right there. And, so I'm witnessing things like that I'm like, oh, that's a thing you can do. Oh, that's a thing you can do. And then, I have this kind of this developmental model that I've invented for the path I've seen people take in non-monogamy that I call the ripples of E&M. It's like drops in the ocean, and we sort of the rings that ripple out for getting further away from monogamy, but that in not in a sort of a hierarchical kind of way. And one of the levels is what I call integration. And so this is where it starts to become integrated into your life, like the people that you hang out with. More people are aware of what you're doing. Like, I think one of you said something about that earlier. And then it also starts to become integrated into this sense of who you are as a person. So I'm going from being like, I'm only going to do this until I get married, and then I'm going to have like totally settled down. And now I'm starting to, several years in, being like, this is who I am actually as a person. And so those were the kind of steps. And then eventually, once I was in London, and there was just so many people in London doing it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's like a whole thing. And so then by the time the wedding comes around, I am living with my partner at the time, and we had a spare room that was just for when one of us had dates that wanted to come around. And that would have been absolutely wild to me in the beginning. You will live with your partner and be okay with them having a date come to the house that they will sleep in a room with? Like, what? Like, that would have just been wild to me. And so, yeah, that was just kind of the journey of meeting the right people, having other people model stuff, reading the books. It's just so helpful just reading or listening to the books, for those of you that are new, or listening to podcasts like this. And so, yeah, that was kind of my journey. And so then by the time the non-hierarchical poly thing comes around, it just feels natural by that point.
Yeah.
It just feels like, oh, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it had been a slow process for you over a decade. You didn't jump right there.
Yeah. And I've certainly seen, in my practice with clients or just in the communities I've been in, it can be really hard when one person does leapfrog their partner to suddenly wanting a totally different level of openness to what they currently have. It's like going from, we're just swinging, and then one of them, those pesky feelings get involved, those human emotions, and they're suddenly desperately in love with this other person and like, wow, I want non-hierarchical poly, actually. I want to be able to hang out with them whenever I want. And yeah, that can be a bit jarring. I was lucky for me that it was very gradual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you with your sort of journey? I mean, I'm sure you've probably talked about this on the podcast a lot, but like, were there any big leapfrog moments for you, or did it all sort of flow quite easily? Am I allowed to ask you questions? I'm sorry.
You're definitely
we'll allow it. We'll allow it. Yeah.
But I would say there was a slow progression for many years of new experiences and just kind of moving through it. And then
it was like slow, and then whoop. And then we took a big leap, and I think then maybe a little bit of
and then
a correction.
Not quite ready for that.
Yeah, it was like a leap. Sort of went from swinging to a little bit more comfortable with sort of polyamorous aspects, like building connections, and then we sort of jumped into a very full-on polyamorous quad. And sort of
that's a thing to navigate.
That was a thing to navigate, and sort of what we learned, at least for us and where we are and where we were, we just didn't have like the time and energy to give to it what it needed. Maybe is the easiest way to say it. And so now, sort of in a place where it's kind of what you described, like we kind of went there, and now have almost dialed it back. And I don't even love these words because it's not like one is ahead of the other.
I think just we changed.
We changed,
shifted.
Shifting to try to find an equilibrium where we can be non-monogamous and it supports our life supports it, and we can be connected to people without, over-promising things or committing to things that we aren't able to do. So we're just sort of in a bit of a correctional phase at the moment.
Amazing, yeah. And I love being able to speak to this idea that it doesn't have to be a linear thing. There are not these like you're not poly enough attitude, or you're doing it wrong, Again, something I love about what you are doing is that there is a little bit of this energy in the zeitgeist, and for some creators that there is only this one way that you need to be doing things, and it's got to be totally honest, open, non-hierarchical. You can never have hierarchy or veto, like otherwise you're a bad poly person. And the realities in my experience, and like running communities, we got members in Melbourne now and all over Sydney, New South Wales, and we had like about 150 people in the one I was doing in London. And I've probably, just like yourselves, like I've probably met, I don't know, 1,000 people exploring non-monogamy from different backgrounds. And there are lots of people doing things in very different ways to the ways that the books tell you're supposed to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
no
I think
one right way to do it.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just good to know. And so that's why, again, I love about normalizing non-monogamy. You know what I mean? You guys don't call it like poly, to-dos or something like that. Or like, you must be poly. It's just like, let's just make all these things normal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also to normalize that it can, and often does, shift and change throughout life. As you mentioned earlier, the demands of life at different phases demand different parts of ourselves. And sometimes our physical health, emotional health, mental health doesn't allow us to show up in relationships in the way we ideally want to. And we have to shift things and change things, or other things that are happening in our life. There's a number of so many things in life to impact that. And we've talked to people where they feel completely saturated right now in a relationship with themselves because that's all they have capacity for. And then other times where they have several partners and just it depends, and it can shift and change throughout life.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. It sounded like when you left London and landed back in Australia, that sounds like it was another big inflection point for you and sort of your path as well. Did I catch that right, James?
Yeah, that was a period of huge change for me. I had this really weird experience where as my micro world was completely falling apart, the actual world was completely falling apart.
Yeah, 2020.
So I had just spent a week in mania, total blackout, ended up in hospital. We didn't know that I was developing bipolar, so none of us really understood what was going on. Landed in Australia, was just meant to be here for 3 weeks. All my stuff, everything, my wife at the time, all in London. And I land in Australia and it said on the local paper, 3 cases of this new thing called COVID-19 in Australia. And so then I get trapped in Australia.
Wow.
All my stuff's in the UK. And and then eventually, this mental health stuff and this diagnoses and having to give up alcohol and losing friends and having to look at my own behavior and go on this big growth journey. And so that kind of became my main focus. And it's certainly changed me as a person and changed the way that I relate to people. But it's also given me the tools, like the way that I was running the community that I was running in London. A lot of it was just about the James show. I foresaw that I should get other people to help me. And so we did have sort of like a bit like a panel of volunteers to sort of vote on the direction of what we would do. But ultimately it was the James show and it was about my ego. And, going through those changes that I went through, what it really taught me is that I really need community and I need to be involved in an egalitarian way with people, and that James shouldn't be trusted with all the power. And my partner that runs the community with me here, now I have the ability to really listen to people and relate to their experiences. And I think it's made me a better community leader. And I like to think I've just changed so much as a person that it's allowed me to be so much better in relationships of any sort, just relating to people in general, be a better human being, live ethically. I've said I'm about 5.5 years of alcohol. I'm also the same amount of time off lying. It's like I'm sober from lying now. And so, all that change, even though it was so hard, guys, I can't tell you some of the...
I can't even imagine. I mean, you've talked about a string of things that you've gone through, right? Getting sober by itself is damn near impossible, right? Navigating COVID on its own would have been impossible. Having to move across the world from your wife, fucking impossible. And you've stacked all of them.
Yeah, being diagnosed with bipolar.
Yeah.
So random. You can just get bipolar. Did you know? I didn't know that. Yeah.
That is new information for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so now it's just like, it really does. I just used to be the most atheist person ever. And now I just have this, it's not religious, but it's just like this spiritual feeling that there was something in the universe that saw that James needed to go through this self-work and soul searching and really look at my behavior. I used to be a sex addict. I was a diagnosed sex addict. I was, I think using the language and the tools and freedom of non-monogamy to be able to just do whatever I wanted, right? And I just didn't really see that. I just thought I was the best person. I just thought I was just such a great person, and I've since been assuaged of that view. And I'm proud of my growth now and the person I am now. But the way that I'm able to help lead this community that I now run here in Australia, nothing is more important to me. No relationship that I am in or have been in since is more important to me than the welfare and benefit of the community as a whole and the movement of what we're doing. And so if I am in a position of authority, I'm always trying to be hyper aware and to never use that position, in any way other than what's right and ethical and going to be good for the group.
Yeah.
And so I just never, I couldn't be like that if it wasn't for what happened to me. I wouldn't wouldn't have been able to do the things that I'm now able to do. If it wasn't for that. So I am grateful that it happened, even though it was not very fun.
No. Yeah, it sounds really, really, really challenging. So many things at once. And also what it led to, though, is fundamentally a huge shift from anything in your past, it sounds like. And I'm curious how you do, like, what does the community look like today? How is it run? What does it look like?
Yeah, so it was great, like jumping on and seeing and stumbling onto you and what you're doing over there, and I could see a lot of similarities. So we have about probably up to 600 members that are at least active across the various channels. So we actually did have an app at one point, but then people use too many different apps, and so we moved from the app back to WhatsApp. And so we have like, the main community threads, and then this sort of like subgroups of like Queensland, which is a state here, and Melbourne, which is another capital city in Australia. And, I've been down to Melbourne 6 times this year to run workshops and stuff for the community down there. But the majority of people are here in Sydney or in New South Wales, which is the state that Sydney is in. And we do typically maybe 4-ish events a month. So we'll do like, in general, we do, those kinky people that are listening might know what a munch is, which is essentially just like a clothes on meet and greet night, usually at a pub. We've since started calling that a mixer. We just kind of like that term. So we do one of those a month, which is just like a meet and greet. And we'll do usually in summer also a picnic on a weekend day. We do a book club every month. And then usually like maybe a movie night. And then occasionally we'll do play parties. And then we tend to do, Tilly and I, my partner in crime with this thing, we tend to do between 4 to maybe even 8 weekend away style retreats, a bit like the one that I'm flying over like to hang out with you guys at in May of next year. So we do stuff like that too, where we'll take like 40 to 60 people to a bougie Airbnb, and not everyone will stay on site in the Airbnb. There'll usually be, a couple of dozen staying in hotels nearby, and then it'll be a few days, some structured activity, some unstructured, sometimes there's a play party as well. But it's mostly about connection. And so we call those connection retreats. So yeah, that's what it kind of looks like at the moment. It's called the Open Circle. For those, if you're in Australia and you're interested, you can just go to theopencircle.au. You have to apply. It's pretty easy to apply. But yeah, it's not the sort of thing anyone can turn up at.
I love it.
And links will be in the show notes.
Without a doubt.
Oh, yes.
Without a doubt. And yeah, just anyone who caught that, our relationship recess that's coming up. This is being recorded in November, so James said next year, but by the time this comes out, it will be this year. So yeah, it's coming up in
Oh, that's right. We're going to time travel.
That's right. We're going to time travel.
Yes.
So if you're looking to come to something like that, you can check out links in the show notes for our relationship recess. But
in May 2026.
In May of 2026.
And if you're liking the sound of my dulcet Australian accent, I will be there.
That's right.
So you can...
That's right. and
I'm
definitely
very excited. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely check out the community in Australia. I know we've got a lot of listeners in Australia, so definitely check that out. And excited for what you're building, James. And I know we're going to jump in and talk a little bit about like your big weekend that you just kind of pulled off. But I'm curious for you as you came through this incredibly challenging period and transition from London, from the UK back to Australia, and sort of realizing a lot of the things that you talked about. What shifted for you and how you're doing relationships for yourself? Like what is your own relational, how are you moving through that for you at this point?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And there's several things that I've had to try and figure out and navigate, and so one of the things now is, guys, I can't tell you how upset I am about this, but I've unfortunately become a demisexual, which means that I found that my body just really no longer allows me to get involved at play parties. That was a real surprise to me. Like I just went through just like I could not get enough of like having sex, especially at play parties. And then my body was just like, no, we're not really about that anymore. So I've been happy to like, run many of those. I've probably run like 20 over the last 2.5 years. And that was a surprise, being like, how do I show up in these spaces if I don't want to have sex, right? And then again, I'm now more the 5 date until we sleep together kind of guy. And I say like, like it's a bummer jokingly, like it's like it's a beautiful thing to want to connect with people deeply, right? But it was also kind of just fun being younger and just wanting to fuck everything, every configuration of body part and gender identity, so that's been new to navigate in relationships. Also honesty, I think in the zeitgeist, at the moment there's E&M, ethical non-monogamy, there's disclosed non-monogamy, there's consensual non-monogamy. And I feel like for those of us that have been doing a long time, there's a shift towards wanting to drop any of those first letters, right? And just calling it non-monogamy.
Yep.
That's the way I think it will go eventually. I personally have enjoyed using the term E&M. My business is called E&M Australia because with everything I went through, it was important for me to suddenly realize in all the ways I'm relating, I'm trying to do things ethically. I needed to hear that. James needed to be reminded of that, and I still do. Just like, you got to be ethical, James, you got to be ethical. And, so just as an example of this, I had a connection that I was exploring not too long ago here and with a girl. And again, it was like, 5 dates in, we finally sleep together. And, it only happened because neither of us were expecting to even feel remotely horny that time. And it was like totally unexpected. And then it was transcendently hot and just absolutely wild. And, her and her boyfriend were both very new to non-monogamy. And I'm always very patient with people and their different structures and what comes up for people. But it became very challenging for them because of how strong this connection was between her and I. And then there was this one point where we sleep together in this way, and I found out that it wasn't totally within the bounds of what they had agreed to. And she basically just said in black and white terms that she's just not going to tell him. And I was like, I'm just so sorry where I'm at now. Like, I can't have that. Like, I can't be. I've cheated millions of times in my earlier journey, and didn't think twice about it. And now I was like, I can't have that energy in my life. And him and I was really trying to connect with him as well. I just make a real point of I'd love to try and connect with the partners of people I'm seeing because it just makes it easier, right? If we try and humanize them. And I told her leading up to that hang that I was going to have with him, just so you know, I'm not going to go out of the way to tell him that this thing happened that was outside of your agreement. But if it came up in any way that I was going to have to lie or pretend, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So you're going to need to tell him. Otherwise, it might end up coming up and I'll have to tell him. And so that's another example of how I relate now is that like I need it to be based in honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
Totally new for me, guys. I don't know. There's a lot of people that aren't like that, but James had to do a lot of work to become like that. I had to do a lot of work, and I still do. I've still got to watch that side of myself.
Yeah. It's shows that it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I really appreciate the honesty about that, and I love too the way you described that. Keeping that ethical in front of it for you is a reminder. Even I think sometimes it's just to stop and think. In the middle of something, because it can be really easy to get excited and oh my gosh, this is happening, let's do it. Or like you're talking about, like, wow, we have this crazy connection. It can be really easy to be like, well, okay. I mean, it's close enough, right? Like, we can, I'll just look past it this time. But right, for you to really stop and be like, no, because it's going to, like, I'm going to be then caught in a situation where I might have to say something or lie or, and so it's just a really good reminder to just take a pause and be like, okay, well, what are my real values here?
Yeah, exactly. And Tilly, my partner that runs the Open Circle and the Festival of Alternative Relationships with me, all sorts of things. Because I imagine with you two, right, you've got your romantic relationship and then there is kind of a business side to it too, right? Where you're like, maybe people are paying to come to events or the community or sponsors. And, in business, all sorts of things come up around money, like people suddenly want to get paid when they didn't ask to, or, originally, or like, people can't come and like, do we refund them? Or like, all sorts of things that come up in business, and the E helps us there as well. Just to remember, like, when that sneaky little covetous, greedy part of the human condition comes out, so that we're like, we just won't tell them that they overpaid or whatever it is, that helps us too in that side of things, just to be like, okay, we've got to be ethical here as well. We need to try and be ethical. Doing ethical non-monogamy, we've got to try and be ethical.
Yeah, across the board. Yeah, I love it. Well, you've mentioned the festival that just happened. So we're recording this on November 16th, 2025. So you're just waking up
where we're at.
Oh yeah, I guess I suppose it's the 27th or the 17th for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit about the festival weekend and
the last few days.
Yeah. And so it's called the Festival of Alternative Relationships. The website is called FAR Festival, and I just kind of love because the F stands for festival. So I just love, those grammar Nazis out there. I just love annoying them by being like, what? It's like people that say ATM machine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was just gonna. That was my example that was coming right. You beat me to it.
Yeah, and so it's a 3-day camping festival, and it's predominantly about the workshops and discussion panels that happened all day on a Friday and Saturday. There's a dance party at night, and then on the main night, there's also a big play party in these massive tents. And we also had a Tantra temple space this year as well, which is kind of like, I don't know if you have this in the States, but it's kind of like a facilitated, slow escalating play party where there's like a tantric practitioner that might be like, you guys are going to ask deep questions, then eye gazing and move around the room like animals. Then maybe you slowly massage and there's no pressure to take your pants off, and then it might escalate to sex. So yeah, we kind of had this cool party, sharing of big ideas. There is a play party as well, though that's not the main thing. And some of the chats or panels we've had, say, over the last 3 that we've done are things like the life of the dominatrix, or like we had just had an open parenting panel this time, or like we had a growing up different panel once which was people raised in cults. We've had age gap relationship panels. This year we had a how to date a sex worker. So we had like 2 male and 2 female sex workers with different experiences, and just talking about, what it's like dating people like that, what can be the challenges. We've got dirty talk workshops. So it's kind of the sharing of these edgy kind of ideas and discussions that I feel like in Australia, there's not many places that are doing that sort of stuff. And it's just really special. I mean, just the it's so much work, guys. And you're event organizers as well.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, as you're listing things off, my brain just kept going, glad it's not me, glad it's not me, glad it's not me. So yeah.
And also I would love to attend that event.
Actually, what I was thinking was, so glad you're doing it. So glad somebody is doing it, because these are not easy to do. So anybody listening, the stuff that James just listed off is a monumental feat to pull off. So
yeah. And I was making the joke leading up to this one that I feel like running a festival, how there's like, I could be getting this potentially a little bit wrong, but there's like chemicals that are released in a woman's body that make her forget how hard childbirth is, so that she wants to do it again. Do you know about this?
Yes.
It's like something, and I've been joking in the lead up that I feel like putting on a festival is a bit like that, because like every time in the weeks leading up to it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why? And then you do it and you're like, this is incredible. It's so great. And afterwards you're buzzing because people are messaging you being like, that was the best weekend of my life. Or I've like, one guy said to us, and he was a man, I think he was in his probably early to mid 60s. And he was like, if I had spent $10,000 and 5 years in therapy, I would not have gotten the same level of growth and self-discovery and connection as I got here in 3 days. That's the kind of stuff people say about FAR. So then you're like, maybe we should do it again. But at the moment, we're not putting our pressure on to doing that. So if you're listening and you're in Australia now, time traveling to when this podcast episode will come out, it's quite possible it won't be on this year, but stay tuned because I suspect we might do it early 2027. So stay tuned for that one.
I would just say from organizer to organizer, good for you for taking the break to do what you need to do to come back, because it can be really the addiction that you just described is real. And especially, you come out of the weekend that you just did and you've got people blowing up your email or the chats or whatever. And everyone's like, well, when's the next one? When's the next one? It can be so easy to be like, it's coming. And then you're like, oh God, what am I doing? I don't know if I can do that. So it's good for you for being able to pump the brakes a little bit, because it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, that's lucky that I've got Tilly, she coming back to running a community for a second time now that I've done this, and I've just really realized that like her and I have just such a natural working relationship. Because we've both had quite a lot of experience with non-monogamy, it means that we have a communication skill set, I think, and a way of thinking about the world. But in general, what I've realized is ultimately James needs to listen. And so if it comes down to it, I defer to her, or I defer to her energy. And so she is the one that has energetically been like, how is this feeling for you? I'm feeling like potentially we don't commit to doing another one. And it wasn't until she said that I thought, oh yeah, we don't have to. We can actually just, I can just be like ADHD, go, 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 go. Let's not stop, And so I'm lucky that I have a partner like that. That's like, oh yeah, no, yeah, we could actually just not do another one, or we could put an indefinite pause on it. So yeah. I'm grateful to have that.
You can wait a little bit before you make that decision.
Yeah. Which exactly. I'm not sure about for you, James, but when somebody comes to me and says, what I just got out of these 3 days is more than I would have got in years of therapy, it's really hard to not be like, oh yeah, well, don't worry, we're coming back next year. Like you hear the impact, and it can almost feel like...
And it can still have the impact.
It can, but I get to a place where I'm like, well, how the hell could I not do it? Right? If that's what people are feeling, but it's hard.
Yeah. And it took us a while to realize with this particular event with Far Festival is it's a transformation weekend. I think when we did the first one, people are like, cool, party in the bush, excuse to dress up. We'll get to, some people, we might get to fuck under the stars, And then this is our third one. We realized that everybody, including us, is going to go through growth. Some big feelings are going to come up, It's by referral. Like, people can't just click on the website and come. If they do apply, then we sometimes have to jump on Zoom calls with people. I think we did about 30 of those this time around. So it is vetted. And then when you're there, we do like facilitated connection circles Thursday night, Friday morning, Saturday morning. So people are connecting, and there's a compulsory consent workshop. And all weekend, we're just talking about, this is just about connection. It's not about sex. Don't come here just expecting it to be about sex. And for a lot of people, they know it's not. But then, as you know, I'm sure, people still get through the cracks and don't really get the message. They hear they've got their blinders on, And so on the main night, that's when all the big feelings come up. And oh my gosh, like some of the dramas and the things that are happening, And so now we know it's a growth weekend. We know it's a growth weekend for us as well. And so we were a lot more prepared this time, but still, like, it's just amazing, like what happens with people. Like, I'm sure you have a whole bunch of stories on your end, and you just think, oh, wow, that's right. People are just totally getting totally different things out of this. Like we had this one person at the festival on the weekend who it came to our attention that they were like screaming at the stars in anger in the campsite because no one would have sex with them. And, like I would say that less than 50% of the festival get involved in the play party. Most people are there to actually just genuinely connect and learn from the workshops. And this person gets really drunk in their car and drives drunk to the nearest ATM, which was across a ferry, and comes back with $2,500 cash and is going around asking for somebody, will they fuck him for the money?
Wow.
And so that's the sort of stuff that comes up at these events. And like, Tilly, she is just like, we were both putting out fires with different people over the weekend, and she was the one that just did this most amazing job with her and this other woman of just like this beautiful female energy of bringing him back down without any anger or judgment to earth, and making him see this side of himself. And she just handled it in the most amazing way, this process that she ran with him for like a half hour in a field, like just, this is happening all over the place. You guys, I'm sure you've dealt with stuff like this too, and so now we know that that's what it's like. We're prepared for it.
Yeah.
And so I definitely did some growing on the weekend too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm excited for what you've built, what you created, what you got to just go through this past weekend, and
so much.
Yeah, and I think whatever comes next, whether it's another iteration of Farfest or what comes next, I'm excited for it, James.
Yeah, or ongoing, like so many ongoing events too.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that too. I mean, I think definitely we're going to be leaning more into the retreats, I think, in this coming year. Like, I just love those weekends away. Like, they're just so special, aren't they? Like, getting to go away with a couple of dozen people and really just connect.
Which are so different from the festival because they're so much smaller, right?
Yeah. And it's like having a mini one.
Yeah.
And it's easier to manage and organize.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. And then, it was very exciting for me, over the last few years, transitioning into being working as a practitioner with couples in the education space. I got to start flying interstate a lot this year to teach workshops. I was being invited places. And so I'm feeling as well a calling to lean more into the educational kind of piece. And so like Tilly and I, for example, we've developed this framework that we're calling the ripples of non-monogamy. So stay tuned, because maybe this will be in years to come. People will be like, wow, they talked about that in this podcast. So it's basically this thing of charting the common sort of developmental model that people tend to go on as they drift further away from monogamy. And going away, implies that there's a distance and there's a journey, but like it's sort of just what I've noticed is there tends to be a common shift in the value set around the types of openness people want, how they see friendship, how they see romantic partnership. And so we've kind of come up with these names for those different stages that we're calling the ripples. And I'm really looking forward to building that framework out. And what we're hoping is that it will give people some language that makes it a bit more clear about the type of openness they're currently exploring than what we've got currently. Because as you know, I've really enjoyed the term E&M becoming popular because, all we knew at least all I knew for the first 10 years is like poly, right? You're either a poly or you're a swinger. That's kind of
right.
it,
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's this spectrum. And so, yeah, kind of speaking to that, that journey and hopefully, maybe writing a book or something or giving people the different tools that will work differently for them depending on what stage they're at, and again, I love all the books and I love all the authors that are out there. So nothing but props to them. But because a lot of the time they're coming from a place of, I've been doing this for 10 years or more and I'm non-hierarchical poly, sometimes those books don't have the tools that you really need in that earlier stage, when you're maybe a bit more don't ask, don't tell or whatever.
Totally.
So that's what that's where I think we're going.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for it. And I'm excited, to in 10 years be like, oh yeah, you heard about ripples first here, folks.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sure I'll tell you all about it when I come and see you.
That's right.
In a few months from now.
That's right.
In a few months from now.
Later this year. Well, I love it, James. And thank you for coming on, for reaching out to us, for sharing, for flying all the way to the US to come to our events, and just excited to meet you. And just wondered if there's any final words you want to get out, you want to shout out into the universe while you've got the microphone. And then for our premium subscribers, we're gonna jump over to some sort of lightning round fun questions. But for the rest of us, we'll let you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, the last thing for me that I love to reiterate, and you already do a great job of doing this, but I just love anyone like yourselves that's just letting people know that this is just a journey and it's a spectrum. Anything that we've said in this conversation, if you've gone, I don't know if I'd ever be at that stage, or like, I don't know if I would be able to handle that thing, that's totally fine. Where you are at the moment, you might not ever need to shift away from that. And I want you to know that it's what I love this term, relationships by design. I didn't invent the term. I can't remember where I got it from, right?
Yes.
We're just all designing the relationship that works for us. And, listening to Emma and Finn and the great work that they're doing, it's just us trying to figure it out together. I'm trying to figure it out too. So whatever you're doing right now, you're just doing the best you can. That's totally fine. Keep giving this a shot. I wouldn't want you to get scared away by anything that I've said.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, I love that. And just thank you again, James, for everything that you shared and that for all of the work. We'll put links to everything you said into the show notes, as well as links. I know we mentioned the Somatica Institute in this episode, and Finn was in that or went through the training as well. And we've had Danielle and Celeste, the founders of Somatica Institute, on the podcast.
Aren't they great?
Yes,
great
we'll put links to those episodes in the show notes too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, with that, James, have a wonderful afternoon. And a quick reminder, our premium subscribers get some bonus content coming up right now. So we'll see you over there.
I'm going to be dishing out the exciting stuff.
It's going to be juicy. It's going to be real juicy.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Take care, James.
Thank you.
And we're back. Thank you so much, James, for coming on and sharing your story and for all of the amazing work that you do as well.
Yeah, a quick reminder, links to all of James' work are in the podcast show notes. And don't forget, James sticks around for the bonus questions. So if you are not a premium subscriber yet, now is a great time to go and sign up. You can do so linked in the show notes or on the homepage of our website for $4 a month or $40 a year. And also,
James is going to join us at Relationship Recess.
James is going to be in Florida with us. So we'd love to have you come join us in Florida as well for Relationship Recess. That's May 1st to the 3rd. You can find out more over under the events tab of our website or directly linked in the podcast show notes over to Relationship Recess. A quick reminder, we're going to be outside Orlando, Florida for a weekend packed with games, play, and connection. You do not need to be a member of our community or the premium subscription or anything else. This is open to the public. So come on and join us.
We would love to have you. We're super, super, super excited about this weekend.
And next week, we're coming back at you with a fantastic conversation with Crystal. Actually, Crystal was the workshop
facilitator.
The workshop facilitator, that's the word. Thank you for helping me out. Crystal taught the workshop that we led in November for our community. So you can learn a little bit more about Crystal over on the workshops page of our website if you'd like to check it out. And then you can also join our community and listen to the workshop or watch the workshop directly.
Yes, and come back next week and listen.
You got so much you can do between now and next week. You're not going to get bored. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.